Welcome to the Deconstructionist Deep Dive.
The podcast that doesn't just accept the story.
We break it
We examine the pieces.
and expose the machinery inside.
Let's dive in.
What if everything about the lone genius as Charles Darwin isn't just wrong, but is designed to be wrong?
So you know the picture, right? Charles Darwin, he's this almost saintly figure.
Right. The beard, the serious expression.
Exactly. Out there on the Beagle, all alone, bravely looking at finches and tortoises.
Observing, pondering.
And then, bam, a flash of inspiration. And he just single-handedly gives us evolution by natural selection.
Yeah, it's presented as this very heroic journey. Objective science, linear progress, one great mind.
And they always wrap it up in, like, the majesty of nature, don't they? It makes you feel awe.
And his personal virtues get mixed in, too. His humility, dedication.
As if that somehow proves the science itself is pure, unassailable truth.
And it's exactly that story, that almost mythic great man of science that we really need to poke at today. Our sources are asking, is this picture, is it really accurate? Is that how big science breakthroughs actually happen?
Or is it something else? A construct?
Or, yeah, a carefully built myth, maybe one designed to give science this sort of quasi-religious feeling.
Because when you start digging, the story we get about Darwin, and honestly about scientific progress generally,
Yeah,
it's
a lot more complicated, more human, definitely messier than the polished version.
Absolutely.
So let's start with what our sources call the lone genius myth.
Okay.
This idea that a huge theory just pops out fully formed from one person's head in isolation. It's pretty naive, historically speaking.
Science isn't really like that, is it?
No. It's usually not some clean, solitary quest. You've got thinkers like Ludwig Fleck talking about thought collectives.
Right. The idea that concepts develop within communities influenced by everything around them.
Exactly. Rivalries, who's got the funding, what's culturally acceptable at the time. It all plays a part. And there's a really big piece of evidence against the lone genius narrative for Darwin, something our sources call a suppressed omission.
Ah, Alfred Russel Wallace.
You got it, Wallace. He came up with natural selection too, basically at the same time.
Independently.
And the way he's often just footnoted or ignored, the research suggests that wasn't just an accident.
It was active.
It looks like an active erasure, yeah. A kind of historical airbrushing to keep that lone genius brand strong. It hides the collaborative, messy reality.
And that's where it gets really interesting, isn't it? Why does that particular myth, the lone genius, stick so hard? How does it work on us?
Good question.
Well, our sources point towards something they call the academic capitalist complex.
Okay, unpack that.
Think about it. It's way easier for institutions, for publishers, for funding agencies to market and manage one person, one great mind.
Easier to build a brand around an individual hero.
Totally. Much harder to give credit to a whole network, maybe a non-hierarchical one. It's the same playbook you see everywhere, right? Like pharaohs getting all the credit for pyramids built by thousands, or Edison being the famous inventor while Tesla or all the people in Edison's workshop get sidelined.
So it serves a structural purpose.
Exactly. And the effect on us, when we buy into it, we kind of train ourselves to wait for the next genius, the next savior.
Instead of trusting our own insight or collective work.
Right. It makes us lean on authority figures, always looking up for the answers, maybe not looking around or inward.
Okay, that leads into another core myth.
Yeah.
The idea that Darwin's theory, as he first wrote it, is basically the complete final word on evolution.
Or that science history is just this smooth upward climb, no wrong turns.
Right, that progressive march idea. Our sources really hammer this point. Presenting Darwin's original theory as complete truth is just wrong. Science has moved on significantly. I mean, we now understand things like epigenetics, how the environment can literally flip gene switches without changing the DNA code itself.
Which is huge.
It is. Or horizontal gene transfer organisms, literally swapping genes across species lines. That messes with the simple tree of life idea.
And then there's the whole extended evolutionary synthesis.
Exactly. Incorporating way more factors than just genes and slow, gradual change. So the idea that Darwin solved it all back then, it's just not the case.
And it's not just about discoveries since Darwin, is it? It's also about the stuff that was shaky or even wrong in his own work, but gets kind of glossed over in the hero story.
Yeah, absolutely. Our sources bring up his own mistakes, like pangenesis.
Oh, yeah, the idea that little particles from all over the body went into sperm and eggs.
Right. which was totally wrong. We know that now with genetics. Or the massive arguments around sexual selection. His ideas there were often really debated, sometimes pretty flawed.
And the big one, he had no idea how inheritance actually worked. Genetics came later.
He didn't. But the triumphant narrative often just smooths over those bumps, sanitizes the errors.
Which ties right into that other big deception, the inevitability of progress. That idea that everything is always moving forward, getting better on some predetermined path.
It's a classic teleological fallacy, as they say, thinking there's a fixed endpoint or goal driving history.
Yeah, it makes history sound neat. Predestined.
But actual science history, like Thomas Kuhn talked about with paradigm shifts,
Yeah.
it's messy, full of arguments, resistance to new ideas, dead ends. Not a straight line at all.
Framing it as this clean march from, say, religion to science is maybe just swapping one kind of dogma for another.
And who benefits from that myth? The inevitability one.
Well, the sources argue that powerful entities, the technocratic state and capital, governments, big corporations, they love that narrative.
What?
Because if progress is inevitable, you can justify almost anything now as a necessary step towards that amazing future. Exploitation, environmental damage.
We have to break a few eggs.
Pretty much. It's all part of the plan for a better tomorrow. You see echoes everywhere, right? It's almost like a secular version of religious end times prophecies.
Like the singularity replacing the second coming.
Sort of. Believing in that fixed path makes people accept present harms. And it locks into that other thing you mentioned, the sanitization of error.
How so?
Well, if science is this perfect engine of progress, it can't really afford to look fallible, can it? To maintain authority, get funding, the priesthood of science, as some call it, needs to project certainty.
Like the church hiding inconvenient history, or regimes airbrushing photos.
Exactly. And the message that sends us, that being wrong is bad, shameful.
Which kills actual learning. Real science involves being wrong a lot.
Right. It fosters fear, not curiosity, not critical thinking.
Which then brings us to maybe the most dangerous area, what the sources call biosocial slippage.
Ah, yeah. This is critical.
This is taking biological concepts, natural selection, competition, survival of the fittest, and just slapping them onto human society. Politics, economics, social structures.
As if they're the same thing.
Exactly. And our sources are crystal clear.
Yeah.
This is a massive category error, a really dangerous one.
Because history shows us where that leads.
It leads straight to things like eugenics, colonialism justifications, brutal economic exploitation, rationalized as natural, social Darwinism, basically.
It takes biology and twists it to say existing power structures are just natural, unavoidable.
And that's how the deception works, right? This slippery slope from biology to sociology, it's used as a narrative weapon.
Absolutely. To make inequality economic, racial, gender-based seem like it's just baked into our genes, part of the natural order.
It's an old trick, isn't it?
Super old, like the divine right of kings or caste systems, claiming social arrangements are natural to stop people questioning them.
And if you accept that premise,
then you're trapped. If you think the hierarchy is just the way things are, biologically determined, why would you ever fight to change it? It's like a key to a mental prison.
Yeah. And supporting all this is another deception. The idea that science itself is somehow neutral, objective, above it all.
The white lab coat image.
Exactly. Our sources argue that the whole scientific industrial system uses this cloak of neutrality. It helps deflect awkward questions about who's funding the research.
What biases might be built into the questions being asked.
Or what the technology is actually used for in the real world. If science is purely neutral, then any results are just facts, right? Harder to critique.
And let's loop back to that majesty of nature thing we started with, that awe. It gets hijacked too, doesn't it? Into what the sources call the romanticization of extraction.
How does that work?
Well, that heroic quest for knowledge, sailing off to exotic lands. It often provided cover for colonial expansion and resource grabbing.
Turning plunder into progress.
Precisely. Think about concepts like terra nullius, nobody's land. Colonial powers just declared inhabited lands empty to justify taking them. Science was often part of that justification, mapping and categorizing for exploitation.
So the narrative makes you admire the exploration, the discovery.
Without seeing the extraction, the disruption, the human cost, it shifts your view subtly. You stop seeing yourself as part of nature and more like a detached observer, maybe even an owner.
And the danger for you, the listener, in buying all these interconnected myths is that you might never ask who really benefits. You might excuse terrible things as just the price of progress.
And you essentially become a willing part of systems that define truth for you instead of digging for it yourself.
Exactly.
So let's try and synthesize this. What's the ultimate deception here? It's not evolution itself, right?
No, definitely not. The theory of evolution by natural selection, as a biological explanation, still incredibly powerful, hugely important.
The deception is the mythos, the story built around Darwin and the theory.
Right. It's the narrative package.
Yeah.
The one that turns science into a kind of religion.
With infallible high priests.
Its history rewritten as pure, inevitable progress.
Its findings presented as totally neutral.
And, oh, coincidentally, those findings often end up justifying the current social order. Yeah. And the core sleight of hand is taking a mechanism for genetic adaptation and making it the grand metaphor for all of human life, society, everything.
That's the leap. That's the danger zone.
So this deep dive, it's not really just about Darwin's history.
Yeah, it's about how stories work, how they're used, how easily history becomes hagiography writing about saints, not people.
How we get recruited into becoming true believers in certain narratives, maybe even scientism.
So we're not saying don't believe in evolution. We're saying, let's call it a cognitive Armageddon, a wariness of all narratives.
Don't kneel at any altar. Not Darwin's, not anyone's.
Use the stories. Use Darwin's story, Wallace's story, all of it. But as case studies, see the brilliance, yes, but also the flaws, the context, the humanity.
Question every story about great men. Question every story about inevitable progress.
Because those stories, they can absolutely be the bars of your own mental cage.
Look for the fingerprints. Whose interests are served by this fact, this narrative?
Because your mind really is the final frontier for colonization. Don't let narratives conquer it without a fight.
Well said.
And that's our deep dive for this week.
Remember, the most dangerous illusion is the one you don't know you're in.
But now you know. So here's our question for you.
What is the one idea you've held on to that you're finally ready to put on the chopping block? Let us know in the comments. Question the narrative. Deconstruct the dogma. See the system.
We'll see you next time. Stay skeptical.